Hi there, my name is Will and welcome back to a deep dive of workflow components. Today we're going to be talking about labels and how this will help you organize and keep your flows tidy inside of Kestra. Put simply, labels are a key value pair used to organize your flows and executions. This allows you to search for labels from your flows as well as your executions, making organization inside of Kestra even better. Let's have a look at a few examples. As you can see here, we've got labels set up here and we've got two as a key value pair, quite similar to what we saw in the variables video. We've got the key song with the value never gonna give you up and artist with the value Rick Ashley. Now, if I execute this, we'll be able to see this in the execution logs. As you can see, when we execute this and go to overview, we can see that our labels appear here, but we can also add additional labels to our execution if we want to use those to help us look back later for debugging purposes or maybe something else. So if I click set labels and put in test and then put in true, when I press OK, it adds that in there too. So super useful if you want to be able to label specific executions so they're easier to find later on. Now let's show how beneficial these labels can be. If I head over to flows, I can easily filter by the labels to make it a little bit easier to find things. So if I now search for song and then never gonna give you up, we can see that it has found the specific task here. Really simple for being able to find them. We can also go to executions and do the same thing. You can also just click on the labels too. So here we've got two different ones. I can just click on them and it will then filter automatically for the executions with that label. So if you want to be able to just easily sort by them, this is the way to do it. On top of that, you can actually set labels at execution as well, so you don't even have to add them in later. When we press the execute button and click on the advanced configuration, we are presented with that same UI that we saw earlier for being able to add these in. So you can do those at execution as well as after execution. Really helpful. In this next example, we can override our labels during our flow. So using the label task type here, we can actually add additional labels at execution as well as override some. So here I've got song and I'm able to use the output here, never gonna stop, to override this. So at the moment, when I execute this, we'll see the overview says never going to give you up, but then it changes to say never going to stop. So really useful if you want it to change depending on a certain outcome, whether that's maybe something fails or maybe if something succeeds, you can then reflect that in your labels just to make it easier to filter without having to manually go in there and add all of that data yourself. Here I've got another example of where we can change labels at execution. In this scenario, we're using the labels property and we can provide them in a list format. This is useful if you prefer to be a little bit more explicit about what the key and value is rather than putting the key and then the value in one line. A little bit different to what we had before, but this will work just as well. So if I click execute and we can see we've got our various inputs, we can see that the labels will add themselves during execution, making it that little bit easier to come and find the data later. Well, hopefully you found that useful and you're going to start using labels inside of your flows to make it a little bit easier to debug as well as filter. Stay tuned for more workflow component videos where we're going to be covering more powerful features.